Hi, everyone, and welcome to the book launch of the wonderful Carson Wolfe's debut chapbook or pamphlet, depending on where you are, Boyish Vest. My name's melissasussens, and I'm going to be your host for the evening. I am a queer poet from South Africa. I'm a vet and a TA for Megan Falley's Poems That Don't Suck, which is where I got to know Carson, I think 2 years ago now. And I'm really thrilled to be here with all of you to celebrate this incredible poet and their work. I just want to let you know that we are recording this Zoom event, and we will be sharing the recording on YouTube at a later stage for the people who weren't able to make it live. So if you don't want your face shown or something, just make yourself hidden. There is a transcript available for those of you who prefer that or need that. And yeah, we are looking forward to an evening of poetry or a day of poetry, depending on where you are. I'm going to ask Carson some questions in between their reading, and there'll also be an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end. We've also got a book draw, so you could win a copy of Boyish Vest, which will be a super collector's item one day, I'm sure. Just by being here, you're entered into that lucky draw. And we've also got Carson's amazing wife, Faye Wolfe, to take us through some fabulous stuff through the course of the evening. Faye will be sharing links to buy Carson's book in the chat as we go, so you can look out for that. And I think that's all the sort of legwork I have to say. So I'm going to start us off with 2 poems from my book, and then I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who's part of Hidden Voice Publishing, who's published this pamphlet, and then we'll head over to Faye and then to Carson. So my book has just come out. It's called Slaughterhouse, and it's come out here in South Africa by Caravan Press. I am selling it through my website for the international purchasers who want to read it. And I've chosen 2 poems to read that I feel hopefully speak a little bit to Carson's work in their themes of queerness and gender-based violence and stuff like that. So let me get us going. Statistic in waiting. In the grocery store, my love lets go of my hand and we part. The red sea of cold meats and bulging tomatoes splitting us beneath the stranger's condemning eyes. Our love must be a burning bush, a miracle in the way it is still surviving. Our gender is enough to mark us a target in this land, dressed permanently in black for all the girls who did not make it home, who will not grow old. Together we are another statistic in waiting. So we choose security estates and townhouse complexes, do not dream of existing in a freestanding home with no neighbors pressed close enough to share the scrape of emptied plates. We do not dare to imagine fenceless gardens, to hold wrap-around porch silence in our future. At the traffic circle, a man screams lesbian at me, and I do not know whether this makes me safer or more vulnerable. This being named what I am. I know only that we do not go on date nights, only date days. That I learned to watch my back in the dark before I learned what love was. I do not know if or when the newspaper's daily prayer will be my name. And my second poem, Unbecoming a Disappearance. My younger brother twirls in dance class. Dad says he can be anything except gay. I hide in montages of the love story of 2 women doctors who sneak touches in on-call rooms between saving lives. Dad sits down next to me just as they kiss. I want to become a disappearance. Mom says this is a phase, reminds me I have never cared to fix cars or leave my legs unshaved. So I learned to swagger. Do not wear a dress for 2 years. My girlfriend and I are at a market, Belgian waffle crumbs still kissing the corners of our mouths. We are in love for the first time, hands intertwined in a pride parade for our joy. An old man stops us, thrusts out a pocket-sized Bible, cold with disgust. At my first job, I ask my colleagues if I can bring a friend along to our end-of-year function. I do not stand out in the crowd. I'm a veterinarian in charge of life-saving decisions. My friend comes to collect our dog from my vet practice. My friend brings me lunch at work. My friend is my emergency contact, cannot be introduced as friend anymore. Person by person, I name them: girlfriend, partner, other half, love of my life, best bread breaker, personal chef, love dove, wife. Thank you. Okay, so I think before I hand over to Sarah, I'd love to just introduce Carson, because then we'll move right along. I'm sure all of you are here know something about Carson, at least that's obviously drawn you here. But what you might not know is that Carson is a multi-award-winning Mancunian poet. Their work has appeared in 14 poems, Penn Review, the Hobart, and is also forthcoming in Rattle, Taylor Marley's Metaphor Dice anthology, through Button Poetry, along with their whole family. And they're also currently serving alongside me as a teaching assistant for Megan Falley's Poems That Don't Suck, which is super exciting, and we're very lucky to have them. Boyish Fest, which is coming up now, and why we're all here, is their debut published little collection of things that we can all hold in our hands and fawn over. And yeah, I think Carson is an incredible poet, and watching them work and hustle and grow over the last 2 years has been just astounding. They are one to watch for sure, and I know this is just the beginning. I'd love to invite Sarah Pritchard from Hidden Voice to maybe say a few words about this specific publication.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for those really powerful poems that you read. Yes, Hidden Voice Publishing, its baseline is LGBTQI poetry, not exclusively, but that's the baseline of it, and friends and family. I'm trying to think, Carson, you might need to help me out here. I read one of Carson's poems years ago, and I enthusiastically got in touch with her, got in touch with them and said, has it been published? And they said no, and invited Carson to publish it in one of our anthologies. And very generously, Carson let us publish that poem. And I can't remember the title of it, Carson. Can you help me out here?
It was Butches Can't Wear Skirts.
That's it. That's it. And
Yeah.
so yes, that's what Hidden Publishing is about, really, trying to capture those voices that don't necessarily get heard. And then invited Carson to put a leaflet together, or asked Carson if they had a leaflet, and Carson said yes. And Carson sent it over to me, and I read it really just in one go, and I was completely in love with it. And I said, can we publish it? So that's it, really. I mean, Carson's work is startling. The opening poems for me were gut-wrenching, raw, vulnerable, but also really important to read. And then they take us on a really important journey, I think, into love and hope. So yes, hooray. I want to celebrate that. Is that enough?
That's perfect. Thank you
Say
so
more,
much.
but I think that summarizes it for me. Really chuffed to be helping Carson's work along the way. I'm sure really they don't need our help, but we're very honoured to be able to handle some of Carson's work.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I think I agree with all the descriptions of Carson's poems and the way they move one and their importance. So thank you for giving a platform for these voices. I'm going to hand over to Faye, who is Carson's incredible wife, and she's going to take us through some exercises.
Hello, nice to see everyone. We just decided to offer a little bit of a kind of body scan today, just to kind of deepen our awareness and our capacity to receive Carson's poetry. So when I invite this, I'm going to give you the opportunity to turn your cameras off if you want to, if that feels more comfortable. And it's really just a few minutes of going through a gentle body scan, noticing our breath, that kind of thing, and then Carson will come back over and read their poetry. So just to begin with, wherever you are, if you're sitting, standing, I invite you to close your eyes and or lower your gaze. Just check in with your breath without changing your breath, just noticing the pace. And then just offering a little bit more air into your lungs. Noticing the subtle changes that are rising and falling of your stomach, of your chest. And just noticing your shoulders, maybe giving them a little roll. Moving the head, the neck, just offering a little bit more space. Asking yourself what you need right now, following the sensations that feel good. And you might want to take this movement into your arms, your hands, still noticing the breath. And just bringing your awareness down into your abdomen. You might want to put your hands on your stomach or rest them in each of your hands. Feeling the breath here. Giving yourself a little more space, a little more air. And then bringing your awareness down into your hips. Checking how they feel. And extending that into the thighs, into the feet. If you can push your feet into the ground a little bit more, having a sense of you being here on this floor. Then I'm just going to gently guide you back into opening your eyes, noticing the space around you, the colors, the shades of light. And then just placing your hands together or on a part of your arms, forearms, and just having a little rub, just waking up the skin wherever it feels comfortable. Thank you. Carson will return.
Hi, hello. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Sarah, for your wonderful words, and thank you, Faye, for grounding us all. The first poem that I'm going to read, it needs just a little bit of context. So A TSA agent in America is what we might call here like airport security or something to that description. Okay, so the title for this poem is The TSA Agent Divides My Family by Race. I am ordered to step back with the white child who looks most like me. My wife waved forward with the black child who looks most like her. I think, okay, this is America. At least they got to go first. It could be worse is a mindset that makes no big deal about being split like a pie chart in equal halves. A statistic of queer families who move through this world as just friends, or single mums who met in a support group, returning from a field trip to Frida Kahlo's Casa Azul. She is snatched through security, fast-tracking the possibility that we're not invisible at all. That my plaid shirt has turned the airport into a pride parade, that her sunflower dress means she can still be saved. I can see them now, beyond a glass wall, scanning the crowd for faces which complete the smiling photo on our mantle. I can hear our daughter answering, "This is my mum. Yes, I'm sure. This is my mum." All right. The next poem I wrote after watching a documentary on Netflix called The Ripper. And the title, I nicked it from an article published by Esquire in 1981, about 6 months before the Yorkshire Ripper was caught. It was the subheading, and I nicked it because it was just so ridiculous. So this is the title. All right now, lads, which one of you is it? And this is the epigraph. The police launched a public manhunt for the Yorkshire Ripper. A tape of his voice was broadcast several times a day on television and radio stations. £1 million were spent on billboards plastered all over Britain asking, "Do you recognise this handwriting?" All the coppers got were wives convinced husbands had once written love notes in the same scrawl. The phone lines would not stop him from killing again. Still, there were hundreds of officers numb from the dead weight of the receivers. In the first week, 20,000 women called to report without a doubt their boyfriend was the Ripper. There were filing cabinets so heavy with the names of English men. Engineers had to install concrete pillars to hold the floor from caving in. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was just a little taste to start us off. So I'm going to interrupt and ask a question here. Carson, you write a lot on queer family making and domestic violence, and I'm wondering if you can share with us why it's important for you to write poems about these topics, and what do you hope that your poems can do to impact or educate people as they experience them?
Yeah. Well, I think when I write about sort of patriarchal violence on a larger scale, I feel like that's kind of my business. And so it's like, it feels personal to me, you know? So that's why I speak to that. And then when I write about domestic violence on a more like intimate, personal level, it feels in a way like I'm going back to sort of give a voice to the person that didn't have a voice in those moments. And that's quite empowering for me to do that, and also quite painful at times. But yeah, mostly empowering. And I suppose I write about it for myself a lot of the time, and if that inspires like hope or whatever in other people, then that's really great too. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I think your poems do connect and inspire hope. And I think that's what's the joy of poetry, is that we can find ourselves in other people's work in whatever way it is. So I definitely find that from yours. So we're going to take a 5-minute comfort break. So if anybody needs to go shake it off a bit, take a moment to breathe, run to the blue, whatever that is, 5 minutes, and then we'll be back for some more amazing poetry. Think of your questions so long to grill Carson at the end. All right, we're back and ready for some more poetry. I'm going to ask Carson to take it away again. I hope everyone's ready for some more amazingness.
Thanks, Melissa. This poem is called In-Flight Announcement. Welcome on board this service from a fixed address to elective homelessness. On behalf of the crew, I ask that you do not approach our survival briefing with the attitude of, it will never happen to me. When the captain turns, warning signals may alert you to fasten in for turbulence. Signals appear red, behind a compliment, or not at all. In the event of a break-in, stay calm and assume the mama bear position. Grab the sturdiest wooden toy, brace for impact. Should the cabin experience sudden panic, a blood-knuckled hand will drop down from above. Place it over your mouth and nose to smother a scream. Pull the thumb to release the security deposit to a fist-shaped hole in the wall. If you are traveling with children, I'm sorry. When evacuating, follow the hysteria of alarms installed by child services that triggered each time your daughter placed palms to pain. Exits are not clearly marked. Exits are lit with family photos. Exits lead to a hallway where no neighbors come to assist. Stow away your left arm, or think of a news story for when passengers ask, who tattooed your sleeve? The temperature at our destination is hot enough to kill, any blame still leaching on skin. If you forgot to pack sunscreen, we offer a non-toxic solution that blocks all harmful light, including gaslight. For your safety, we have replaced all life vests with celibacy rings disguised as mosquito repellent. As we prepare for takeoff, make an erasure poem from the police report you carry in your purse like the photo of a loved one. Thank you for choosing to fill a bag not shaped like your body. We wish you safe passage and a tag tied to your luggage, not your big toe.
I love that one. So many incredible lines. I always find your poems really find a way of balancing humor and heaviness, sarcasm and seriousness, in I think a way that I envy, and I'm sure others do too. So I'm wondering if it's something that you have to actively work to do, or does it come naturally to you when you write?
Yeah, it definitely comes naturally to me. I'm really just sarcastic all the fucking time. And a pain in the arse for sure. So yeah, it definitely comes naturally. I have heard that it's hard to write humor and stuff, but I don't know. It's easy if that's just the way your brain works, I suppose. Faye says I'm the funniest person that she's ever met.
Such a bad problem to have.
Yeah, I don't think I've read too much humor in my poems so far, but I
don't know, that poem for me, like, even though it's a heavy topic and a heavy poem, there's some lines that, like, they just give that hint of, like, yeah,
the mosquito repellent.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah.
You want to give us another one?
Yeah. Sorry, I keep coughing all the time. I'm still on the back end of COVID again. Okay. All right, so the next poem I'm going to read is the inspiration for the cover photo of the pamphlet, and it's called Budapest. The waitress is ignoring me on purpose. In this foreign restaurant, my queerness translates in the barber's blade. The offspring of new hickeys assaulting the waitress with teeth marks trailing down my collarbone, leading to unwelcome thoughts of how they got there. I strayed 3 blocks from the haven of the party hostel, clothes still damp from my fumble in communal showers with a bisexual Canadian. Boy-ish, written in bold on my vest. A word I wear quietly here, like excuse me and please. She brings the bill on demand to the family who have eaten 3 courses. For the 3rd time, I tell her I am ready to order. I am still here, waiting until my clothes have dried and set like rigor mortis in the shape of my wishful thinking. This booth, the final resting place to my benefit of the doubt, the knife and fork laid on a black serviette, are flowers on a casket, spelling out my loss, filling my stomach with a banquet of air. Thank you. Am I reading another one, Melissa? Yeah. Okay. All right, so this poem, it's one of those sort of ancient forms. It's definitely going to piss off a few purists for sure. And I want to say that for a while, I thought it was pronounced Garzel. Okay, so when I first titled this poem, it was Dick Garzel, and now it's Dick Guzzle, which is unfortunate, but also kind of cool. Okay. Me to my girlfriend. I got you a gift. It's my dick in a box. Joke's on you, Justin Timberlake. My dick came in a box. It cost an arm and a leg, a 3rd leg. I put a condom on for realism. My dick is protected. Then she moans, come inside me. And I pull out like Mae Martin, who strapped a dick on Netflix, inspired me to write a poem about being semi-boy and wearing a dick labeled sex toy. But this is no game, I assure, as it glows in the dark. Aurora Borealis dick spread across celestial sheets, asking why? Why was I born without a dick?
And there we have another taste of humor.
Yeah.
I've been saying, I think I say gazelle, but that's probably also wrong then. Who knew? Basil,
Who knew?
you're teaching me stuff. So, sort of more in terms of your Budapest poem, I know you write a lot about traveling. You've traveled quite widely, I think. But I also feel your poems travel not only in place, but also in emotion, or, you know, where we start and where we end in terms of what we've learned from the poem. It always moves. So, yeah, do you write? Can you talk to us about what it's like to write, both traveling in the physical sense and in the metaphorical sense in your work?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I came to writing in the first place was because I had this story that I wanted to tell, yeah, and it kind of was rooted in the sort of domestic violence, and then it was how I moved on and sort of just traveled around and was this unstoppable force, and had I have all of these crazy like travel stories, and I was like, I really want to do something with this, and it was mostly down to Faye because she encouraged me to go to university, so that I could, you know, learn how to tell this story. I didn't really have any tools, but because I was such a shit in high school, I had to do this like entry year before I could even get into uni. So I went there thinking I'm going to write a screenplay. That's what I'm going to do, because I love like little TV shows, little 6-part series, you know, and I thought I can write something like that. I'm going to do it. And then I got there and I just started writing more and more poetry, and yeah, it was always my intention to sort of write these travel stories. And it's such a wonderful compliment for you to say that they travel, you know, emotionally as well. Like you start in one place in the poem and end somewhere else, not necessarily because you've like moved from one place to another, but like emotionally. Thank you. I always try to work towards that. And yeah, I have so many more. I mean, my full collection that I'm working on, you know, explores a lot more of these travel stories. So I'm really excited to bring that out whenever that may be. Yeah.
I'm also excited for that. I think we all are. And
Mm.
I know by the time it comes out, you're going to have been, I mean, you already have put so much work into that. So it's going to be amazing. I'll ask you another question before I let you read again. What's your favorite part of being a writer, and what do you struggle with the most as a writer?
My favorite part of being a writer is that feeling you get, you know, when you finish something and you think, oh my God, this is the best thing that's ever been written in the whole world, and I am a genius. And then you're like, I need to submit this to the New Yorker like right now because it's so good. That is an amazing feeling, and I love it when that happens. Mostly I just show it to Faye. And she's like, yeah, this needs work. But yeah, no, that's the best feeling. I just love that kind of like joy when you create something that's so exciting. And the thing that I think I struggle with the most is sometimes I get like bogged down with, it's like my inner critic, you know, this voice that's like, what are you doing with your life? Like, I don't know. And then I start comparing myself to other people and like what they might have achieved. And it's just like the worst road to go down. I try not to do it. But yeah, that's one thing that I would say that I struggle with as a writer is, you know, measuring myself against people like Ada Limon. I mean, come on. I need to chill out with doing things like that. But yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, measure yourself against your past self.
Yeah.
That's pretty, especially you, because you have grown so much.
Yeah, that's really true.
You want to hit us with another poem?
Yeah, this is actually my final poem. And it's for Faye. And it's called 10 Weeks. The contractions start in a coastal cafe. You push scrambled tofu around your plate. It's too late for sanitary towels, so I line the car seat with a bag for life to drive you curled and panting to our bathtub. I peel the leggings from your thighs and stare at the eagle tattoo. Its permanence. I hold out hands to catch our belly-up fish, but miss our little gem prized from shell. I scoop it up like a child. A child. You finally have one up on my exes, I joke. I've held a few hearts, but never a placenta. And just like that, we are laughing aboard our shipwrecked family. We'll have 1,000 babies, I promise, as you peek into my palms and marvel at our treasure.
Oh,
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Am I correct that that's the button video winning
Yeah.
poem?
Yeah, so that was a category winner for the 2021 button video contest. And I have actually since chopped, if you go and listen to that poem, it's like chopped in half now, thanks to Lexi, who is here. Hi, Lexi. Yeah, she's awesome at editing. She's edited all the poems in this book, and I'm so grateful to you.
Amazing. What are you proudest of Boyish Fest?
That's a good question. I think okay, what I'm most proud of is the sheer audacity of this book. Because on the intro page it says like, this is a curation of my best published work and my award-winning poems, and I just think it's hilarious that I've dropped my greatest hits before the album, you know. So yeah, I'm really proud that I have this little collection of work to put together that has appeared in journals and yeah, like won contests, and I'm really proud of that, and how far I've come since taking the first Poems That Don't Suck class in 2020. I think I took it like 3 times that year, and now I'm teaching on it. So yeah, I'm really proud of where I've got to.
Yeah, you've put the work in to get there.
Mm.
So definitely worth being proud. Thank you so much for reading for us. We can't wait to get your book. This doesn't mean it's over, people, so don't disappear. Faye has put links in the chat for the Amazon places you can buy Carson's book as both a e-version and a physical. And we have done a lucky draw dip of everybody who's been here tonight or today that Faye has done a little randomized selection from. So one of you has won a poem, drum roll please, a poem, a whole collection of poems, in fact, even better. And that person is Bex. So Bex, if you want to just send Faye maybe a DM on the chat with your details that they can be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Yay. Thank you for being here. And I would love to open up the floor for questions if anybody out there wants to ask Carson something. You're welcome to raise your hand on Zoom or put a question in the chat, and we will make our way around. Lexi, please kick us off.
So my question for Carson is, how are you so open to like hard edits? Because like I'm always astonished at how willing you are to just be like, yeah, I'll try this, even if it's like because I totally get that excitement when you write a poem, like that first like draft of a poem, and you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And then when someone edits my work, it's like kind of devastating a little bit. And there's a moment of like, wait, you don't think this is the greatest thing ever? And your poems are already amazing, by the way, in the first draft. But I just think that your willingness to just try things, even if they don't end up staying that way, is probably what makes you such a great writer. And I'm just curious, how did you get to a place mentally where you will be like, yeah, that's fine, I'll try that? Because I think that's such a wonderful quality in a writer.
It's a really good question, Lexi, and I honestly think it's because of you. Because I just really trust you with my work. And so I suppose in a larger sense, what I'm saying is, if you find someone, who really gets what you're trying to say, or who has consistently given you feedback that you have followed and it's worked for you, then just to keep following that. And I suppose it just becomes easier in that way. But honestly, I don't think you've given me any feedback where I've thought, what is she on about? And it always works out. And I just think that you make my poems so much better. Like, this book is almost yours in a way. Yeah.
No, it's all you. It's so easy when I read your work, because I just know, I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And everything I take out is just to like point out the more incredible parts.
Thank you. I hope that answered the question.
Perfect. It's such a great duo. I don't know how I didn't know you guys were like editing buddies. That's amazing. Lexi also has a book coming out next year with Right Bloody in the US, people. Okay, anybody else who wants to ask something? You also can type it in the chat if you're shy.
I have a question. Hi, Carson and Melissa and everybody. I'm curious if you have any stories to tell about times that you feel like you've found your way to being your best editor? In other words, the closest that we can get in editing our own work to like the magic that you were just describing of Lexi's editing? Like, do you have tricks where you go away and you come back, and for how long? And just curious how that works for you. Like how you get that space from that wonderful moment that you described of like, this is the best thing ever, to be able to see it with the other set of eyes.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you said like space a few times when you were asking it. And I think that's really the key, is to try and take some space from your work. So what I've noticed is that at the moment I'm editing poems that I wrote about 2 or 3 years ago, because I'm doing this like new project, and it's mostly those periods from that, poems from that time. So yeah, I wrote them. They're old, they're not great, they've got some really good lines in, and now you know, from how much I've grown as a writer, I can look back and I can be like, okay, I can see, you know, these different things. So for example, I took one the other day and it was about a ghost story, and it had all these separate blocks and multiple like theses throughout. And I'm like, what am I actually trying to say here? So I took my favorite lines and I kind of puzzled the poem back together, and I landed on a new ending, and it feels fresh and new. But I don't think I would have been able to do that 2 years ago, because 2 years ago I was like, this is the best poem, over it. You know, and now I can look at it and be like, okay, I can see it, the problems, you know, it's been rejected multiple times, and sometimes good poems do get rejected, that happens, but you know, you can also like revisit it after a while if it's still happening. And I'm really excited about the new edit of it. I definitely think that one of my favorite things to do as well is to sort of read through the poem and then ask yourself, can this poem start at any other point within it? Does it start somewhere else? And that's what I did with this one. It started in like the penultimate stanza, so I kind of caught everything from above and started down there, and it just,
Wow.
it's, yeah. And as Lexi was saying, I will just do like, I'll just go snip, snip, snip. Yeah, and if I'm like holding on to a darling that I just can't kill and it won't go into the poem, I'll just keep trying, and it's me just still learning the lesson that it has to go in the sort of line graveyard and wait for another time. Or maybe it could be a first line on its own, just write a poem from that one if you really can't let it go.
I like to think of there being a room, like a playroom, that I can park those things that I can't let go of, and they can all meet each other, and maybe they'll show up again somehow, or have little lines among them. Yeah. Thank you. That was a really helpful answer.
Yeah, I think playroom sounds much nicer than graveyard. Someone the other day called it a sperm bank, and I was like, that is totally, I should start using that. Fertile space for all of your good lines. Definitely. Thank you.
That's a good one. I love it. So Krista in the chat has asked, can you tell us about a new project or any other projects that we can look forward to from you in the future? Any hints you want to drop there?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm putting like a little pamphlet / chapbook together that is specifically on my time living in a hippie commune or within hippie community. So it was in my early 20s, I left England and I went to live in a commune, and it was quite hilarious, some of the stories that I have from that, and just how I sort of bumbled around Europe. So yeah, I'm, like I said, that's why I came to poetry. I was like, I'm going to write about this specific thing, and then I've not really done much with it. So I'm going back, I'm editing some of those old ones, making them new, putting them in a new project, and we'll see what happens with that. And I also have the full collection, which is you know, the travels on a larger scale and other things, you know, but still working on that. That's been twice a finalist with Right Bloody as well, in the UK. So maybe third time's the charm, who knows?
I hope so. I was going to say something. I don't know. Anybody else who has a question? Or a comment or anything like that? Which poets are inspiring you right now? Comes from Madison.
Hi, Madison. Thank you for your question. Which poems are inspiring me right now? I just read Tap Out by Edgar Kunz, and I quite enjoyed that. There was a few bangers in there. I'm excited to read your book, Melissa. I can't wait to get my hands on that. I'm loving your poetry right now. And who else? I read Jeremy Radin's book a little while ago, and it's still stuck with me. You know, it's one of them where it just won't leave me. So I would definitely recommend reading Slow Dance with Sasquatch. I really enjoyed that. And I'm sure I'll get off this and I'll be thinking, oh, there's so many more, and I can't think of any.
I think you've mentioned Ada Limon's.
I'm obsessed
book
with Ada Limon. It's almost like I need to be on commission at this rate, because so many people have signed up to Scribd because of me. Because she's done like this, it's called, what's it called? Shelter, a love letter to trees. Oh my God, it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I just found out that she didn't do a print version to save the trees. I think that's a badass move. That was cool of her to do that. Yeah, but I do want to buy the book, so I was like, at the same time, please. The trees don't mind. Not for your poetry, Ada.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, we've also got a question from Ren saying, what advice do you have for writing the things that you know you want to, but you're most scared to do? But are the most scary to do so?
Ooh. Advice around like taking care of yourself, like whilst doing that, or because I think you know, writing the things that I'm most scared to write is always where the most power is and the most heat. Like I like to always try and say the thing that I'm most afraid to say. But yeah, you have to also, it's treading a fine line. Because your poetry can simultaneously destroy you. And that's also not fun. So whatever you have that, you know, whatever you can do for yourself to take care of your mental well-being. I like to take lots of baths and go for runs. I don't know if that's helpful.
There's also a follow-up with that from Laura saying, thinking of 10 weeks specifically, but wondering about, have you had any fear putting yourself out there and sharing personal things? And I suppose that also links to now having a chapbook out or pamphlet and hoping to have a full length, which will be a very personal collection. Yeah, anything. I think,
sorry, can you repeat the question? Because Faye just left the room and then my mind went blank.
Faye, no.
I know the babies must be shuffling.
Do you have fear of putting yourself out in a personal way, sharing your stuff that's so vulnerable and specific to your own life?
Okay. I think the only fear that I ever, or like, I wouldn't really say it's a fear, but I do have concerns sometimes around the domestic violence stuff in particular and the people involved in that. And I get worried sometimes about them finding out that I've written about it and maybe published it, but at the same time, that's mine. It's my experience, and so I can do what I want with it. But I think that would be the only time that comes in. Sometimes I get a bit vulnerable. I mean, I think my mom's here, and I just read a poem about dicks, so that's not very fun for me either. Hopefully she just won't bring it up and we can go along with our lives. But yeah, I think I kind of get a kick out of it as well, like being vulnerable and putting myself out there and telling my story. Yeah. Someone just says sweep the dick under the rug. Oh, just my granddad wanted to come to my in-person launch, and I was thinking, good Lord, no. Just no. Oh.
Okay, anybody else who wants to ask something? There's Hidden Voice Publishing is putting out a third anthology for 2023, deadline December 31st. Send us your poems. Is that an international call or just UK, Sarah? You can answer that in the chat if you want. Anybody else who has a question or comment for Carson? It's a shy group, but I'm happy to be your spokesperson.
I've had some really great questions.
Yeah, very good. International, definitely. Okay, so people who want to get involved through Hidden Voice Publishing, send them poems.
I'll make sure I share that on all the relevant places, sites,
Wonderful.
whatever. Yeah.
Okay, and no more questions? Lexi again, yay.
So I love the humor in your poems, and I'm wondering is humor an entry point into the poem, or is that something that you do after like reading through and then you're like, oh, I kind of want to maybe soften this or like find a way to enter the poem? I'm curious like when the humor comes in. Is it like right in the first draft, or is it something that after reading through is kind of a way of like maybe approaching a difficult topic like easier, a more easy way, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I think that it's usually just there. And if anything, I edit it out at times because I'm like, this is too much. And it's not a stand-up set on Netflix. So yeah, I think I definitely tone it down in places. But for example, this ghost story one that I'm editing right now, I have added a line that brings it back to the humor in the first bit, and it's just so like, is the word deadpan? I don't know. It's ridiculous, and I know it's ridiculous, but the poem at the end is just so tragic that I think it's on purpose, because it's like it's lulling the reader into a false sense of ha ha ha, I'm safe and I'm laughing and I'm having a good time, and then I'm just about to like punch you in the stomach. So now I've ruined it because everyone knows that that's what's coming with that poem. But yeah, sometimes it's intentional, but most of the time it's usually just there.
Brilliant question. Thanks, Lexi.
Thank you.
And Faye's popped the links back in the chat again, so go buy Carson's book immediately.
Oh yeah, I also want to say that this is really funny. If you buy the book on Etsy, there's a typo in it that me and Faye, it was our 3rd year wedding anniversary yesterday, and we just spent all night Tipp-Exing and writing, because it's really important, because it's on the choose your own adventure, so it's like which page to turn to, and that's how we spent our wedding anniversary yesterday. It's hilarious. But I can see it in a funny light, and just letting you know that there'll be a typo in those books, and I can sign it for you as well. We Tipp-Exed it. Yeah, we did, babe. We did. It's not there. The typo's not there. You won't even notice.
The work of the person next to the published poet is never ending. I'd say.
I know it's yeah, you go.
It's hectic. No, I'm just going to ask another question from Krista, who wants to hear you talk about your entry points into your poems. How do you get started, or anything about your process?
Yeah, I usually have a pretty good idea about what I want to write about, and I honestly hate with a passion sitting down and doing like a free write, especially in a room with other people. So I've stopped going to uni on those days, honestly, because I can't stand it. I'm just like sat there thinking I want to go home. Yeah, I write when it suits me and when it strikes, I suppose, which I think if I had more time and I worked as like a full-time writer, I would definitely develop and worked harder to develop more of a sustainable, practice every day. But because I have like 3 jobs and 3 kids and I'm a full-time student, it's kind of just like as and when, and I kind of just go with the flow with that. I don't know if I answered the question then. Was it about the process?
No, I think you did. Yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely.
Oh, and entry points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you answered that with your, like, you have an idea maybe that
Yeah,
you...
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll start with a title. Sometimes I'll start with, I want to write about this moment. Sometimes I'll write a poem and then I'll be like, and I do that thing where I scan through it and I'm like, okay, no, this is where the poem starts. And then I move that to the top and then that's my entry point to the physical poem. Usually I do a lot of throat clearing.
A very good tip, I think, for a lot of people, to look for the meat of it.
Yeah.
Anyone else who has a question? Otherwise, do you have any last words, Carson, or anything else you want to add?
Mostly just thank you everyone for being here. That it feels really special that you all came, and thank you to Sarah and Joel, who isn't here right now, for giving me this space to put my poems on the page. I really appreciate you, and you've always supported my poetry since day one when I came and read that poem at your open mic. So thank you, and thank you, Melissa, for hosting. I really appreciate you and working alongside you. Yeah, I think that's it. Just a big thanks to everyone. And
Yeah,
Faye. Oh my God, I forgot Faye.
I was just going to say.
Is that why you were waiting? You were thinking, come on, Carson, you can get there by yourself. Thank you, Faye. She's been working really hard all day to like stop the kids from trashing this space in particular and keeping it nice. And in general, she's just like my first reader. She makes the space and supports me to be a writer on this crazy journey of being a poet. I actually couldn't do it without you, darling. Yeah, that's
Redeemed yourself. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us. Buy Carson's book, support this poet. Keep your eyes on them because they are incredible and you will never regret spending whatever minutes you have on Carson's poems.
Thank you.
I just wondered how it would feel to unmute, just to clap or make a sound. Yeah. Sorry.
Unmute yourselves, everyone who's not in the same room as Carson.
Yay!
And have a loud cheer.
Yay!
Yay.
Yay!
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.